So you can dress those edges off. And when you see those edges, especially on thick lines, you know somebody knew that trick. That is an excellent trick. Now there's always little spots that need to be, at least in my book. And if you don't scrape real hard, try to shave it. The ink is really sitting right up on top. You can straighten lines like that up. Now, what I'm going to do is use more of the thick lines and thick rivets on top because the green is a little darker. And I want to mix it up. I don't want them all to be the same. See, while I'm looking at this with the... And always, when you want to touch up a thick line, use a thin pen. A thin pen will just go around and give you a perfect edge. Now here's where you really get some variation. Is these are widespread rivets right up near an area where the rivets are finely spaced. And on a real plane, that is really the way it is. A lot of these joints are really riveted well, and some are riveted much further apart. Anyway, just looking this over, I want to spend the rest of this session, probably the rest of this evening, figuring out how much more detailing I still have to put the little aileron piece in here. Get the rest of the detailing in here. Get that line of rivets in. And then probably finish this panel up. I try to have a little plan. Finish this panel up before I go to sleep, and then tomorrow just make a mirror image over on the other side. And then get started on electrosets. AMA numbers have to go on the other wing. And then the last thing, maybe the fuselage and rudder, and that will... Oh, it's just taking a lot of time. There's really nothing to this. There's really not a lot of skill other than just a lot of time. That's a little bit of time I had left. I wanted to copy and get some replication of... See, I did these numbers really thin line. What I did, I used this template and just inked these on and made a little box, kind of like a military looking lettering with the little bar going down it. Anyway, that's about all I have time for today. I have one panel done. Karen over there emailing away. And we'll come back and try to finish this other panel up tomorrow. Now today, every time I start this out, I want to make, anytime I do a mirror image, I want to make a real accurate transposition, because you'd be surprised. The least little bit it's off in one direction, if you have two parallel lines and one is a little off, it's terrible. Now what I like to do whenever I'm doing a mirror image, measure up, and I guess it's self-explanatory what I'm going to try to do is measure up from the hinge line, verify what the dimension was, it's that big line, that big hinge line, spar line I call it. And if that's wrong, what'll happen is when you sight down the wing, it's going to look off from one side to the other. It's really going to look terrible. Balance this off. I put a shirt on the other side because this ruler tends to make like a seesaw out of this. But now what I'm going to do through the white here, because by now my hands are good and greasy from 3 or 4 days of this, I'm going to go right down this whole line with a Q-tip with some talcum powder, just to make sure I don't have any fingerprints on there, because so far the ink's been sticking pretty good, but you never know when it's going to turn on you. Any place where there's going to be white ink, this is just ordinary talcum powder on a Q-tip. This will just help the white ink stick just a little bit better. And by the time you take M600 and clean it, clean the whole surface, and then a little bit of talc here, usually you'll get, well, I shouldn't say that, you see. clean the extra off. Even if some stays on there, it's not a problem. That really does help the white ink quite a bit. Now the fun. The first line every day is always an adventure. Oh, it looks like we lucked out with this pen. Alright, we're in Fat City here, it looks like. And now it's a question of just taking each thing from this side of the wing and transposing it onto that side. Now see, with that line, I want to look right down that line, and I'm parallel to the hinge line. But if that line was off just a little bit, or this rivet line is off, well, you can really see it a mile away. It really looks terrible. Alright, now when I look to lay things out like this, I try to get all the big things in position first. And then the last thing, in fact the aileron thing, I didn't want to forget that. But one of the things I really liked was the way the rivet spacing here being wider than this rivet spacing. The little glycol filler cap that was kind of prototypical. Some of the little ink work, and some of the real, I got one of the real fine pens. Now you can see how fine this line is relative to this line. But it's that variety of lines and the variety of spacings that really add some interest to it. Try to look at something the day after I do it to see if I'm going to like this lettering, and that really has the military look, and by putting it in a little rivet box it looks like it almost is a serial number or something. And if there ever was a dumb rule, if the AMA ever had, and they have plenty of them, dumbest rule in the world is to have to put an AMA number on a scale model. That is just the dumbest thing. I can't even to this day believe that they haven't changed that rule yet. Unbelievably dumb. Now the whole key here is let this dry up. Now again, there's a little spot I missed, a little spot that needs to be addressed. And another little trick you can use, if you have a spot where you scratch through the paint, you can just put a drop of white ink, assuming it's white. Or if it's a color, that's why you have that little color touch-up kit. Make sure the blade is brand new for this. You don't get to scratch too many times and then you want to just replace the blade. And a real thin pen, if you go through or you make it uneven, a real thin pen is a good idea. Now I can lay this one out. Always have a good shirt on. By the way, another trick that you can use on ordinary straight line stunt planes is when you're doing some kind of trim, as long as it's all straight lines, or if you have templates for it, and if you get an edge that you're not happy with. Now I remember Jim Casale used to do this to all the stars. He used to just put a